demonstrate how to install Docker and then how to use some basic commands with Docker. So the easiest way is just to use this command. This is inside of any Linux machine. I would use a virtual machine, but theoretically you can use any machine. And there are other ways of installing it. You could do Docker desktop, but everything I'm going to show you is going to work on this virtual machine. So you do that, curl it, install it. After that's done, and that's already done. So the next thing I want to do is make sure I add my normal user to it. So it is this one, whatever your normal user is, and you'll add them to the Docker group. That's so that I can run Docker commands as a normal user. After you do that, you want to log out, then you want to log back in so that you can see that you are in the Docker group. Once you're logged back in, do a Docker PS. If that command works, then you should be good to go. So great. Now in Docker, I think it's -v for version. Well, that's also good, but -v, lowercase. So we have Docker installed. That's the version I'm running. That should be the most current version because I just barely installed it. So the first command, let's look at Docker PS. That shows the different containers that are running. And of course, there's no containers right now. So let's create our first one. Docker run hello world. Okay, so as you look at this, what it does, and we can diagnose each line up here. It cannot find an image. Now you have to understand what a Docker image is. A container is based on an image, and you can explore that some more. But images are static. You create them, and then, or you can, maybe another word to use is templates. They're a template that we've created, and then in a container is a runtime instance of that template. In any case, it was unable to find the image locally, so what it does is it pulls that down from the Docker Hub, which is a cloud-based service that contains images that we would like to share. So it pulled it down, and then it ran the container. So, okay, the Docker client, all that this image does, let's see what this says. The Docker client contacted the Docker daemon or process. The Docker daemon pulled the hello world image from Docker Hub. The Docker daemon executed a new container from that image. So again, the image is just a template, but we created a runtime instance of it that produced the output you're currently reading. The Docker daemon streamed the output to the Docker client, which sent it to your terminal. Okay, so that was an example of an image and a container. So now let's look at Docker PS again. You'll see I don't see any containers. Well, Docker PS only shows running containers. So do PS -a, and you'll see something like this that pops up. So PS -a shows all my containers, whether they are running or not. So PS just shows running containers. PS -a shows all my containers, again, regardless of their status. So you can see that this was based on the hello world image. The command that was run when that container was invoked was hello. It was created about a minute ago. It did its thing, and then it exited about a minute ago. And as it was running, it was known as this pensive Lewin. And so they're assigned random names. We can change that later when we're running. And these containers persist. Typically, you don't restart a container, so I don't start this one back up. So let's remove it. So Docker rm pensive Lewin, and I just hit the tab key to autocomplete. And now if we do the Docker PS -a, we have no containers running or otherwise. Let's also go look at another command. Docker images will show us any images or templates that we can create containers on. You can see I have a hello world image that I can now create hello world containers on again. So great, there's the name of it. It's the latest, it's tagged as the latest. There's some random image ID there. This was created 16 months ago. That's how large the image is. Which, okay, fine, that's just our introduction to it, but as we explore later on, we'll see images, different sizes of images, and explore other things with images. let's, before I do anything with that image, let's run it again. So again, to run, we said docker run hello world. Well, in this case, if you compare our original output, notice it's not giving any of this. We don't have to go download it again. It's already downloaded. So we essentially just ran that again, and I can run it again. I can run it again, and I can run it as many times as I want. And that's the beauty of containers, is you can run them very often, very, very quickly. So now, if I look at docker ps minus a, you can see, since I've ran that command 3 times, I have 3 different containers that are based on the hello world image. They're all exited. They only fired up for a second. They displayed the content to the screen. I'm done with them now. So let's do docker rm, and we can just delete them like that, or we can do docker rm docker ps minus aq, and essentially that this is a fancy command that says, well, what I want you to do is remove any image that's given to me after I run this command. This is a subshell in bash, and basically it says, just give me all of the IDs of Docker containers, and we'll remove those containers. So as I do docker ps minus a again, I don't have any containers. Do I still have the image? And I do. If I don't want the image anymore, sometimes they end up taking a lot of space on your machine. We can do docker rmi and then hello world, and it will delete that image. And if I were to, so now it's no longer there. If I wanted to run a container based on that image again, do the docker run command, it would have to download that again from Docker Hub. Let's try a more advanced one. Docker run minus it ubuntu bin bash. So again, we're trying to run a container, a container based on an image. The image we're basing it on is Ubuntu, and once we get into that container, this is the command we want to run. So again, it's not found locally, so the first thing we have to go do is download that image or template, and then we will be able to create runtime instances of that template. And now notice it dropped me into a shell, a bash shell, that's waiting for me to type commands. And you can see that my host name has changed. It's no longer template jammy. I'm inside of this container, and I can do things inside of that container. In fact, let's just do something, hello, and save it to a file temp.txt. Okay. Make sure it's there. Great. Let's exit out of our container. We'll demonstrate a couple things with this. We'll do a docker ps. Again, it's exited because it's no longer running. That's a new thing to learn. The containers only last as long as the longest running process within that container. So since my process was, excuse me, my process was bash, as soon as I'm done with the bash process, the container exits. Okay, fine. So we can do a docker rm that thing. Here's another thing we'll do real quick. Let's run another instance of that, and we will also pass in this minus rm flag. Oops, sorry. Minus rm. And what that will do is it will automatically remove the container after I exit out of it. So now as I do a docker ps minus a, you can see it automatically removed the container once it ended. Let's go back in here and run it again. I'll do my ls command. Was it temp.txt text? It doesn't exist. So each container run is unique, and they do not share data. We can make them share data, but we can do that later. So let's exit back out of here. There's a lot of other things we can do at this time. So I believe it's minus h to give it a host name. So now when it drops in here, now I see a host name at test, and I can do my different things in there, apt update, apt install different packages, whatever we do with Ubuntu, and we'll do that later. So exit out of here again. If I do a docker ps minus a, okay, they're not persisting because they put that rm flag in there. Minus h is for host name. Minus it, I didn't explain. minus IT stands for interactive terminal, and pretty much we're doing that because I want to interact with this command that we're telling the container to run. So anyway, there's a bunch of other command line options we can do. Let's go back to Docker images. We should see the Ubuntu. You can see that it's 78 megabytes, and anyway, that's our first foray. So we've shown the Docker run command, the Docker PS command, the Docker images command, how to remove images, how to remove containers, and that will get you started on your journey with Docker.